Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Being willing
Thanks for
have David Canby throw you into the fire here for some questions. What inspired you to carry on your family's farming legacy and step into a leadership role at Nature for Justice?
Yeah, so with the farming, we had to figure out a way to offset some of the production we had traditionally been growing over the last 30 generations into the tobacco industry, as a lot of the companies were cutting back. A lot of new regulations were in place, and the profit value for growing a 100-acre cultivar of tobacco was just not profitable enough at that time. So I met with my mother and father and talked about some of the medicinal aspects of industrial hemp on the oil side, and creating a vertical integration process to provide unique branding. And once we finalize an avenue and source seed for the type of production for industrial hemp, we started out with a small cultivar, and as that small cultivar grew into a brand name, which is called Hempfinity, we were able to vertically integrate products to be able to provide to consumers directly from the farm. So it was a value-added approach. Go ahead.
Are you handling all your own packaging and you're doing everything?
Correct.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, everything started from the ground up, patent and trademarked in 2016, if I'm not mistaken. And what that did was it created a storyline. And that storyline created an opportunity for investors or processors or decorticators. And David Canby and I actually ran into each other at a supply store for industrial hemp that we had been utilizing over the years, East Coast Hemp Supply down in Dunn, North Carolina. And we met there. He was there talking about fiber. I was there purchasing amendment soil. I can't remember at the time. And from that conversation led to an opportunity there for us to try a fiber cultivar. And we grew our first 100 acres of fiber. And that was a contract-based grow. And what I saw that separated David and Biofield was that everything that they put in that contract, they did it for the farmer.
Do you do any of the intoxicating hemp derivatives in terms of your refinement of what you're doing, or are you strictly just CBD?
So with our licenses, we're allowed to grow any particular industrial hemp plant as long as it doesn't exceed a 0.3%.
That part I
threshold.
understand. I'm
Yeah.
saying for the finished product that you're producing, do you make any of what is commonly known as gas station weed?
No,
Okay.
we
Hey,
don't.
I didn't think so, but I wanted to ask. So you also see that as being a confusion to what's going
Very
on?
much so.
Thank
So,
God.
and actually, I sit on the governor's legislation committee on advocacy for the legalization and regulation, the regulatory committee. I actually sit on that board to try to figure out and bridge a gap between what children are allowed to buy, what's allowed to be sold in local gas stations that will benefit both industries that I actually farm in, as well as the manufacturing industry of what those products sell to,
Right.
and the consumer. So all that stuff is tied in to trying to make a better place for North Carolina.
So Nature for Justice has developed a bridge financing model. Can you break down? Can you break that down and why it's so critical for BIPOC farmers?
Yes, so the Nature for Justice nonprofit organization, where I sit as the director of the Farmer Inclusion, or the Growing America Prosperity Program now is what we call it, is basically to find ways to finance farmers that are interested in regenerating acres. It could be a traditional farm that has been growing commodity crops for 5 or 6 generations, or it can be a small urban farm that's trying to transition over to a larger farm. Primarily, the goal is to benefit the Black, Indigenous person of color. However, our projects are open to all farmers, not specifically BIPOC. These projects that we write to, or grants that we write to try to find funding to support these farmers, may come from a philanthropic side, may come from a corporate side. And unfortunately, right now, there are no government-supported grants that would benefit to the farmers that we try to write to. Unfortunately, that's just the time that we are in right now.
Did those go away?
They went away.
They went away.
Yeah, as of
Okay.
April 12th, 2025,
Yeah.
one of the largest projects that we led in the state of North Carolina was called the Farmer Inclusion Project. We've now changed that form into the Growing Farmer Prosperity so that it doesn't identify just one form of a farm or demographic of a farmer.
Right.
Yes. However, we're still being supported by corporate donors
Great.
that see the value in the work that we do to support other farms. And we've actually expanded out of North Carolina to Virginia. Currently, right now, we are growing farmer prosperity amongst farmers in Virginia that grow soybean commodity production. Cargill is one of our sponsors for that project.
When you make it to PA, let me know. How does your team support farmers beyond funding things like education, data, infrastructure? Do you provide that kind of support?
Absolutely. We apply for financial opportunities to expand farmers' infrastructure. We advocate for producers in Washington with their local legislators to make sure that the farm bill that's going to be passed this year, or hopefully this year, incorporates those farmers into it when it comes to policy. So we very much so do things outside of just financial ways. We create hubs, cooperatives, input programs like biologicals that are not accustomed to areas that rural farmers have access to. We kind of create a liaison relationship between a manufacturer, a grower, and we find emerging markets. So if a farmer is looking to expand their production by maybe vertically integrating a product that is grown on their farm, we'll take that business plan and go offer assistance to try to fulfill that need.
Having the opportunity to reclaim your farm and make that yours, what has that meant for you and your family to be able to have that?
Yeah, so a portion of the farm was reclaimed, which was the original acreage of where my great-grandfather was enslaved. We were able to purchase that property in 2021 based on the opportunity of the Historic Preservation Society of North Carolina. They advertised the property to us only because we were descendants of the property that had so much invested value in the history. Because the history that was passed down to me from my father and his father was so significant that we kept all the literature and writing to know exactly where we came from. So having these stories, lines, and the history of reunions and gatherings where we've always visited the property, when an opportunity like that was presented to me, because it was never presented to my dad or my mother, it was just something that I couldn't refuse, and we had to figure out a way to find the funding to be able to purchase that land. And out of 7,000 acres, only 2.5 acres was left to be able to be owned by our fourth generation. So that 2.5 acres included the plantation home, the outhouses, and the exterior structures. The land that's surrounding it that was once farmed is now owned by someone else. However, we will always have a significant value of owning that small portion to preserve our history. And that's why it meant so much to me, because now I could pass on not only the written information, but actual physical value of history that I was born into.
You mentioned mentoring the fifth generation of your family. What are you doing to ensure this knowledge is passed beyond the farm, right? What are you doing? What are your steps you're taking to carry that history?
Yes, so the steps that I walk in, to me, are more important than what's being taught physically or verbally by myself, is actually being able to have children that can see the work that's being done, because that's kind of what motivated me with my dad. My dad, I valued actually what he did more than what he said that he was going to do, and preserving and showing the hard work and dedication of what we're doing here during my generation is just as significant to the four boys that are my nephews and my sons, that they farm, and most of all my heritage would be, inheritance will be willed too. But they're actively there. So not only, they love it. They
That's
love
awesome.
it because they love the things that come along with it.
Yeah.
It's not just the work, but it's the fact that you get now, you can take advantage of the social media aspect of things. You can see you could pull up something that you did on the farm, and you could
Uh-huh.
relate it back to your friends and your classmates. You know, we didn't have cell phones growing up. These kids have cell phones, social media, GIS, drone opportunities and availability. They have AI.
Mm-hmm.
They have so many different things that can generate, that can generate income. That when I was growing up, it was all just work,
Mhm.
work, sun up, sun down. That's all you saw. You didn't see any positive change after that, other than seeing something planted and something grow.
Growth, right.
But with now, these kids have opportunities that are endless. And what I've learned from the younger generation is that, oh, you can do that also. You know, every day you get a different opportunity to find another strategy or way to generate income off a farm. And I think in the previous generations, they just did not have that.
Farming used to be very waterfall in terms of its project management, right? Very traditional.
Mm-hmm.
Start here, go here, go here, go here. What part do you think agility is now playing in a successful farm, and especially in terms of what you've been doing and interacting with a relatively new resource in the United States and working with hemp, because you've had to change and alter and manage with CBD and now working with fiber. How agile are you, and how much does that play a part in your decision-making process?
So the structure of what we farm now is what is called a coexistent function. The coexistent function is that you have a plant like industrial hemp. What can coexist around it in rotation? So we grow wheat, soybean, corn, produce. The coexistent plant is industrial hemp. So whatever that industrial hemp plant can be cultivated in a rotation with, then we're amending the farm or remediating the farm soil. So what I've been trying to do is create pathways to coexist with the plant and also be able to obtain profit in multiple markets. So you have a grain market, you have a produce market, and then you have a specialty crop market.
There's an aspect of this that's like R&D and research and
It is.
development.
Absolutely.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
And you're doing it inside of the rotational paradigm.
Correct.
You've been open about choosing not to rely on USDA funding. Can you share why and how that decision has shaped your journey?
Sure. Really, primarily that decision was based on how my dad farmed. My dad had farmed each and every year with an operating loan. That operating loan could cause him to plant late. Some years it may take longer to process. Some years his credit may not have been good as other years. Some years his crop yields may have differed to present some type of form of approval. Some years the collateral may not have been worth good enough for a loan. So what happens is, as a minority producer, is that we're put in a window under the USDA definition of a disadvantaged producer. With a disadvantaged producer, we're not a commercial farm, we're a mom and pop rural farm. So the risk is higher to deal with a disadvantaged producer than to deal with a person that's farming 4,000 or 5,000 acres. Also, a farmer that's farming 4,000 or 5,000 acres may have the structure in place, infrastructure in place for storage. The rural small disadvantaged producer can only plant, harvest, take to the mill. They can't play with the market. So all of that is added risk. What I say is not relying on the government subsidy program in order to farm, is that you could grow things to find other means to have diversified income to come into your farm as a rotation. When it's time to purchase seed in the beginning of the year or at the end of the year for the next year, you can utilize a diversified rotation to be able to sell a crop in order to get funding back, to save that funding to go towards the next crop. It doesn't have to be a robotic structured way of apply for a loan, wait for it to come back, and then be able to plant. Or not have enough money in your savings to be able to pay yourself back in order to plant.
If I'm understanding you correctly, the USDA and the programs that they have take away the agility that we were just talking about.
It's not structured for a small producer.
Right.
It's the way it was written is not catered to all farmers.
So you were named North Carolina's Small Farmer of the Year in 2024.
Correct.
Congratulations. What did that recognition mean to you and the broader community you represent?
Yeah, so for me, I dedicate that award to my dad because he farmed year after year for not recognition. He farmed to provide clothing, food, and products for the community. He wasn't doing it for incentives or award. So what I did was, by getting that award, I pretty much said I dedicate that to him because each and every year he did the same thing as I did.
That's awesome.
He just farmed with a little less than what I had.
For those listening, whether farmers, investors, or allies, what's one action they can take to help scale this kind of work?
Support regenerative agriculture movements. There's a ton of nonprofits, there's a ton of for-profit businesses that look for value-added products that support a regenerative space. We need to advocate for the Farm Bill to utilize regenerative agriculture products as premium price points in order for farmers to share profits at the retail space.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank
I
you.
really appreciate your time. That was fantastic, and I'm really...